million budget, and approximately $5.2 million of which comes from the funding from the council. So as I started looking into their finances, one of the things, as I said last meeting, was that we needed to have someone in place to manage their finances because we can't figure out what's going on. There's a lot of money that's being spent. And one of the things that I also pointed out was that our legal billings had gone up $2,700 a month. Keep in mind, we were billed $39 for a text message, and I pointed this out last meeting. Yesterday night, I received in my opinion, a bogus, a factually incorrect, and offensive letter from that same law firm. And it was offensive because my question was simply, what is the time frame in which this individual, or what is the time frame in which this position is going to be filled? There is no protocol, there is no proper method to which one individual can get hired right now. There's no practice in place. So I asked the library board director when they plan on hiring this position in general, and I didn't get a response. So now I was given this bogus letter, and I'm honestly just offended by it more than anything. First, they have the audacity to come and, they have the audacity to say that we should be, council members should be Oprah requesting information from them. In addition to that, they won't give me the information when I ask for it, and then when I ask for, meetings to be televised, they run to the business administrator without copying me on the email and then said, no thanks, we don't need this, we don't plan to change where the library board meetings are going to happen. They'd rather just keep them elsewhere. My recommendation right now is to make sure that the cameras do go to that library board meeting, because it's a $5.4 million budget, and for as long as I've been around, I don't recall the council really checking in on it too much, simply because the times generally conflict with the library board. And reality hits, I am looking into their finances, I'm digging pretty deep, and I want answers, and I want them in a timely manner. And I have a good relationship with people on the board, and I have a good relationship with the library board director. I understand the vision, but that doesn't mean that they can't be held accountable for their finances. So that's where I stand right now, and I'll talk about more later on in terms of their finances and disbursements.
Council President.
Yeah, Councilman.
If I can just comment on Councilman Joshi's comments. I've supported the libraries, all of them, for a very long time. I believe in the libraries and the work they do, and they do good work, and they're very important to the Township of Edison. But what Mr. Joshi, Councilman Joshi, is experiencing is totally unacceptable. In fact, I can understand how you feel, Councilman, because I don't understand why any entity working together in the town would correspond and communicate the way they're doing. They are a separate entity in one respect, but not in another. And for them to charge you or us $39 so we have to Oprah information, when does a town councilperson have to Oprah to get financial reports on a township department or a group? When does that happen? This correspondence, this relationship is unacceptable, and it should not continue at all. And I think, Councilman, you have every right to look into finances. I think you've already found some things that are questionable. I mean, we have a responsibility to do that for the town, to keep an eye on the money. So for someone to say, no, you can't look at it, or we're going to charge you and still not give you the information, totally unacceptable. I'm just about as upset as you are, Councilman, and I want to tell you, I've supported the libraries, and I still support the libraries. It's a wonderful thing. But this relationship, or this communication, or this correspondence is something we should not tolerate at all, at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. C, resolution authorizing refund of tax overpayments totaling $12,398.76. D, resolution awarding contract to Radiant Resources Incorporation for HR payroll service integration for the amount of $30,000. Any council comment?
Yes, Council President, regarding line item or section 9A, the disbursements, I would like to make a motion to split the allocation of the general disbursements from the library board's budget and what would be allotted towards the library. So we can vote on that line item separately.
Maureen?
Council President, question, what exactly, Councilman, would we be extracting for a separate vote?
It's a $54,000 allocation towards operating expenses.
So it's operating expenses,
Correct.
not salaries.
Salaries and wages are a separate line item.
Thank you.
If you look at pages 25, 26, and 27 in your bill list package that you have, that's all the POs that he's referring to.
25, 26, and 27?
Correct. And it's a total of $54,572.09.
Sounds correct.
So Maureen, again, it's okay to take this out. Just a quick question, Councilman Joshi. Hopefully, these are not the approved POs, right? By the board, library board.
No, these are general operating expenses, and from what I understand, my reason for requesting to split this in terms of the vote is because I have not gotten any answers or explanations on it, so I would not be able to tell you with any confidence
Okay.
on what to do with it.
So I think what he's saying to do is to pull those disbursements off the consent agenda.
Right, these three out of the disbursement.
So Councilman Joshi, let me understand this. So you have certain questions before the library board, and you're waiting to hear back from them on those questions before we can adequately vote on this?
That's correct. There's certain explanations that I just have not received yet, and
Okay.
my request is to continue to fund the salaries and wages, but let's vote separately on the general operating expenses.
And you'll keep us appraised of when you do get the answers to
Yes.
to your questions, so then we know if we can put it back in or not?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Council President?
Yeah.
Is it necessary to vote separately, or are we just pulling it off the consent agenda?
Yeah, we should just pull it off.
Yeah.
Just pull those disbursements off the consent agenda, and we'll only be voting on the disbursements, not including the ones that Ms. Ruan
Not including the
included.
library, which
So there's no need to vote on those separately tonight, as
Right.
I understand it,
Okay.
correct?
Okay.
Point of clarification, I want to make sure that it's operating expenses and not salary and wages.
Correct.
Correct. So tonight, we can vote on salary and wages, but we won't be voting on the operating expenses.
That is correct.
And that's, Maureen, you said that it's pages 25, 26, and 27, correct?
Correct.
That's specific, so we can get specific with it, right?
Amount $4,572.09.
Yes.
Because then on that page, there's also other stuff that's, so cut it off at the library.
Correct.
Okay, so it's 2.5 pages, so let's get with the appropriate amount.
Yep.
Mr. Northgrave, what would you recommend the proper avenue for Mr. Councilman Joshi to follow in order for him to get the information without having to go through the process that the library board was suggesting that he follows regarding Oprahs and so on for him to get the information?
Yeah, I'm not sure what we should be doing. When Councilman Joshi first called me, I told him there was no way that he would be required to fill out an OPRA to get information, and then I received an email saying that he was required to fill out an OPRA to get information. To the extent that we have the bills in the township, the invoices, with that information has already been supplied, but I would assume, hopefully this problem will resolve itself fairly quickly. But given the fact that Now I assume that not paying the bills will garner even more attention. Hopefully that will resolve it. Beyond that, there's always litigation avenues, but that's just a waste of money. And I'd prefer not to go down that road if we don't have to.
Mr. Northgrave, under the library board, their board attorney, would that fall under the Department of Law from the township?
No, they are technically a separate, they're separate in that sense, so no, I don't think I could order their attorney. I could take, I haven't really researched that. I'll look at that, Councilman, but my instinct tells me no, that they don't technically work for the Department of Law here in the township. So, but if they do, that'd be a real easy fix. Then it would just be a direct order from me.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. And since we're not going to be voting on it and it's just going to get pulled, I wanted to make a point of clarification or reasoning and explanation. In general, keep in mind this is a $5.4 million budget, and the library board is independent from the council. As taxes go up every year, they get, by state statute, a certain amount. So by percentage, their budget keeps increasing. Now, like I said, there's been conflicts, so the council has not been able to take a deep dive, as Councilman Coyle would say. But now I can. And one of the things that I asked for, very simply, these are just some general things apart from these line items. I haven't been able to understand how these positions are getting posted. I know that there were six positions that were posted. They were created, formed, and filled. One of them was a head of security for, it was filled within the first week. I was pretty surprised because I couldn't figure out if there was one person for a $55,000.
I think Councilman Councilman Joshi, if you can.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman Joshi.
Yes, I want to take a couple of minutes to express and explain why I asked to pull the funds from, or pull the disbursements to the library board. Just to give you a background, I grew up on Library Place, which is right next to the North Edison Library. I've born and raised in this township. I love the libraries. From the days of James Madison, John Adams, and J.P. Stevens, right after school, almost every single day after school, I would go to that library. And I chose, and I special requested to be on the library board because of how much I love the libraries and I want to see them grow. But the reality is that it's a $5.4 million budget, and $5.2 million of which approximately comes from the council. So when people hear these figures, a lot of people stop and think to themselves, there's 3 libraries, one of which, the Clara Barton Library, most people here know, is not doing so well. There's minimal maintenance, there's minimum amount of books being pulled out, et cetera. So out of the 3, you're left with 2. So where does that money go? Where does $5.2 million go? Because for as long as I've been a student at the high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools, I haven't seen any capital improvements at all. So, Councilman Coyle, with respect, I understand you pointed out the sanitary items, but when there's a board that does not provide the finances, I mean, that's our question, our responsibility as legislators is to appropriate, the funds or to vote on the budget and to vote on the allocation of spending. We have no idea, you have no idea whether they even need it or not. They could, but that's their responsibility to communicate that. And I haven't gotten that. I want to give you a couple examples, which should be alarming to people, related to their hiring practices. Since I have been serving as a library board liaison, several positions have opened up. I think most of the council, the administration is aware of them. But there has been no logical explanation as to them. And I'll give you one, for example. Head of security. I asked some very basic questions. If we're going to establish a newly hired $55,000 head of security, Does that mean that that one individual whose position was created, posted, with only one application present, and then filled, all within a 1 week span, 5 days, where's the job description? Does that mean that that individual is going to be going from library to library, driving around all day? What are the hours? Those are simple questions. Is he using a township car to go through? Who's paying for the gas? Those are the most basic questions if you're going to be hiring a full-time individual that a council liaison who's going to be funding this should know. I don't want to hear that I don't have the answers for you. Turn to this person. I don't have the answer for you. Who knows? That's the reason why I'm doing this. There needs to be accountability on $5.2 million. These hiring practices, that was just one example. There's been positions that are posted, filled, and taken down from the library. And the only reason I find out about this is because I go to edisonnj.org and I see that they're up. Otherwise, no one makes me aware of them. I have specifically reached out to members saying, can you please add me to the communications when you do this so I know what we are funding here? Nothing. They said that they would, and I have not been CC'd or copied on one single email. I was asked by countless individuals, do you hear what's going on in the library board? Can we at least have individuals held accountable? Because I will tell you for a fact that there is no parliamentary procedure right now on that library board. And when someone brought to my attention that we needed to have at least the cameras present, because it's $5.4 million of taxpayer money, let's at least have Edison channel there present so we can see what's going on and voters and citizens and residents can make their own decisions. We were supposed to do that. And like I said, I was not even copied on that email when the decision was made. We were supposed to be meeting next week in council chambers at this meeting, right? We were supposed to be right here, the library board. And that's another communication when I was not informed and they went out of their way to leave me out of it. The only reason I found out was through someone else who said, hey, I heard it's not being televised anymore. That's $5.2 million that needs to be held accountable. If, at the end of the day, I love libraries, but my gosh, someone needs to be held, there needs to be more accountability on where this money is being spent, how it's being spent, and who is allotting for it. And I sure as don't want this bogus letter from an attorney stating that I'm questioning, hiring practices. I'm doing my job, and I will continue to do my job. That's the reason why I don't think, and I'm glad that we pulled this from the disbursements today.
Thank you, Councilman.